मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we will continue the list of incarnations of the Lord from the second canto, 7th chapter. We will continue from sloka 37. Okay. Devadvisham nigamavatvani nishtithanam purvirmayena vihidhabir adrishyatu turbihi lokan gnatham mati vimoham ati pralobha ati pralobham vesham vidhaya bahubhashya ata aupadarmyam. Okay. When the atheists, after being well versed in the Vedic scientific knowledge, annihilate inhabitants of different planets, flying unseen in the sky on well built rockets prepared by the great scientist Maya, the Lord will bewilder their minds by dressing himself attractively as Buddha and will preach on sub religious principles. Okay. So here we see that no, the atheists, so they become well versed in the Vedic knowledge, and then they annihilate. No, they will try to no annihilate the Vedic culture actually, no, or wrongly interpret the Vedic knowledge, and then they will preach in a different ways. Right. So that time actually Buddha actually comes in that point in time. So, anyways, let's see the purport. This incarnation of Lord Buddha is not the same Buddha incarnation we have in the present history of mankind. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Buddha incarnation mentioned in this verse appeared in different Kali Yuga. In the duration of life of one Manu, there are more than 72 Kali Yugas, and in one of them, the particular type of Buddha mentioned here would appear. Lord Buddha incarnates at the time when people are most materialistic and preach common sense religious principles. So this is a very important aspect here. Though here it is the description that is given here, it doesn't match the current Buddha, like who came few 100 years before. So we know that the Buddha comes, like the incarnation of Lord Buddha comes when the Vedic principles are misunderstood or misconstrued, and some different meanings are brought about and things like that. So then Lord Buddha comes and he says Buddha's preaching is like almost all the time it's same. So he preaches that there is no, don't regard to it, the Vedic scriptures, just give up Vedic scriptures and come to some common sense principles like ahimsa. No, like Buddha's, this one is ahimsa paramo dharma and things like that. So come to some common sense principles of ahimsa and non-violence and things like that. So that is that is actually called as sub-religious principles. So why it is sub-religious principles? It is because actual religion means no, everything belongs to God and everything should be used in service of God. That is actual religion. So sub-religious means you don't harm each other. No, you don't create any no harm to the other person and things like that. So where is God in the picture here? No, it's like saying you go to the office. You don't need to listen to the boss, or you don't even need to understand there is a boss over there. You just need to be there, nice with your fellow co-employees and things like that. Just put up with your co-employees in a nice way. So that's kind of sub-religious principles, right? So it is nothing. No, the very purpose of going to the office is to deliver something productive to the organization, right? So, but here, the whole thing is about, okay, there is no organization, there is nothing over there. Like, no, just you are there and the people around you are there. Just be nice to them. That's all. So that's called sub-religious principles, right? So Buddha generally comes when the Vedic principles are completely, what is that? Uh, like their meanings are taken out of context, and their like Vedic scriptures are used in completely wrong way. That is when Lord Buddha will come and he will say, like, stop all these things. No, like, don't refer to the Vedic scriptures. Just, no, you just be good human beings. That is why the Buddha, though it is an incarnation of Lord, the philosophy of Lord Buddha is called as atheistic philosophy, because no, Lord Buddha rejects the Vedic scriptures. So no, that's why his philosophy is called atheistic philosophy, right? So it is not talking about theism. Theism means there is God is there in the picture, and there is service to God is there in the picture. If service the God and service to God is not there, then it is no more theism. No, it is atheism, right? So like it may look, being truthful, being ahimsa, like, no, don't harm other people and things like that. So all these nice principles may be there, but overall the philosophy is atheistic because it doesn't have reference to the Supreme Lord and service to the Supreme Lord, right? So it's again the organization perspective. If we take, if I go to the office and then I say, like, no, I am punished, and if I ask why I am punished, hey, you didn't work properly, you didn't produce any output. So then say, no, I was very nice with my fellow people, fellow co-employees. No, in fact, I brought water for them. No, I did this seva for them, that thing I did for them. I was so nice amongst people and all those things. No, forget it. Like, no, it's you have to do something for the organization, right? So in the same way, we are all property of God, and we should render service to God. So that's religious principles. No, that's theism. And no, all these feel good principles of being truthful, being like, non-violent and things like that and all, it's sub-religious principles. On the contrary, we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is saying, now you pick up your weapons and fight. And this one, Arjuna is saying, no, I want to do ahimsa. And Krishna is telling that, no, this what is this false ahimsa over here? So anything that is used in the service of the Lord becomes religious principles, right? So Krishna wants the irreligious people to be cut down, and then he wants violence for that. And we cannot say, like, violence is wrong. No, violence is necessary. Just like, it is almost like saying, no, you can be parents of some children, but then you can never criticize them, or you can never chastise them, you can never beat them and things like that. Just like what is there in the American countries and things like that. So if the parents, they correct their children, or even if they speak harshly, or if they beat them up and things like that, so police will immediately come and they will arrest them and go, right? So that is that kind of ahimsa. No, Indians cannot even think of like that, right? So that is the ahimsa principle. So that principle is not religious principle. Ahimsa is not religious principle. It's a sub-religious principles. It's a good principle. It's a good humanly principle. But then, sometimes the ahimsa may have to be overruled, for the upkeep of good governance, for the upkeep of the dharma. So sometimes the himsa is required, or the violence is required, right? So here we see that Lord Buddha incarnates at the time when people are most materialistic and preaches common sense religious principles. So then, in the Kali Yuga, like, definitely people are more materialistic. Why did Lord Buddha did not come? And we are asked to practice bhakti, to the Supreme Lord. So why he is not just preaching some common sense principles? Like, why common sense principles are not preached now? Why bhakti is preached now? So Buddha comes in a context when the Vedic scriptures are completely misunderstood. So now in Kali Yuga, at the present point in time, Vedic scriptures are completely out of context. No, means like nobody is even having any knowledge of Vedic scriptures. So Buddha will come when people have completely read Vedic scriptures, they have mastered the texts, but they have become expert in deducing wrong meanings. No, that is when Lord Buddha will come. So he will come and he will say, okay, no, forget about all scriptures, don't touch them, just be a good human being, right? So that's the teachings of Lord Buddha. So such ahimsa is not a religious principle itself, but it is an important quality for persons who are actually religious. If it is a common sense religion, because one is advised to do no harm to any other animal or living being, because such harmful actions are equally harmful to he who does that harm. Right? So, but before learning these principles of non-violence, one has to learn two other principles, namely to be humble and to be prideless. Unless one is humble and prideless, one cannot be harmless and non-violent. Mm. And after being non-violent, one has to learn tolerance and simplicity of living. One must offer respects to the great religious preachers and spiritual leaders, and also train the senses for controlled action, learning to be unattached to family and home, and enacting devotional service to the Lord, etc. So these are all some of the um important principles. Actually, no, Prabhupada is bringing it from the Bhagavad Gita. I think the elements of knowledge, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shantir, arjavam, acharya pasanam, saucham, like no, all these things are coming here. No, that's the thing which Prabhupada is actually putting it here. No, amanitvam means to be humble, and then adambitvam, damba means pride. No, like to be prideless, and then amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, no, harmless, shanti, no, non-violent, no, arjavam, and then acharya upasanam, so giving respects to the acharyas or spiritual teachers, and no, all these various things. No, it is from Bhagavad Gita. It is a set of slokas which is considered to be the list of knowledge. No, Krishna gives the list of knowledge, and he says, no, what is there in this list is what is knowledge, and everything else is ajnana. No, he actually mentions that particular point. Not sure exactly in which chapter. Okay. Anyways, so this is like amanitvam, adambitvam. I'll just parallelly find out that sloka. It's a very, very important set of slokas from Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so this is 13th chapter, 8th sloka onwards. I'll just recite it for you. 8 to 12. It says, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shantir, arjavam, acharya pasanam, saucham, stairyam, atma vinigraha, indriyarteshu vairagyam. So that's what he is mentioning here. Also train the senses to control, for controlled action. Indriyarteshu, indriya means senses, indriyarteshu vairagyam, anahankara evacha, right? So again, another aspect of ahankar or pridelessness is mentioned in a different way. Evacha, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So this famous line comes from here. So one has to, knowledge means one has to understand that birth, death, old age, and disease, is the actual problems of life. Like right now, people are trying to find solution for various problems. Somebody is trying to find solution for climate change. Somebody is trying to find solution for different problems. Like hundreds of problems, thousands of problems, people want to rectify. But the Bhagavad Gita says real knowledge means Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. The original problems of life are birth, death, old age, and miseries. Old age and death. Sorry, birth, death, old age, and disease. Jara Vyadhi. So these four are the actual problems of life. So one should consider them as the actual problems of life. And how to get rid of these problems? To progress in spiritual life and to attain perfection in the spiritual life, right? And then ashaktir anabhiswanga putradara grahadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishto ishtani ishtanishtopatishu mai chananya yogena bhaktir abhyabhicharini vivikta desha sevitvam arter Jana Samsiddhi. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etat jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad ato anyata. So that means he is giving a list of knowledge. These things, whatever is been mentioned, amanitvam, that is to be, what is that? To be humble, to be prideless, and ahimsa, shanti, arjavam, all these things. It is a list of items. These lists of items are called as etad jnanam. This list is what is called as knowledge. Etad jnanam iti proktam. Ajnanam yat ato anyata. So whatever else is there, everything else is ajnana. So this is how Krishna actually defines knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. So this is Bhagavad Gita 13th chapter, sloka number 8 to 12. 13, 8 to 12. So a very, very important set of slokas, right? So this is what we can understand from this one. So here Prabhupada is citing this particular set of this ones. He's telling, before learning these principles of non-violence, one has to learn other two principles, namely humble and prideless. So because in the list of knowledge, the non-violence comes after this humble and prideless. So that's why Prabhupada is putting that this one. And unless one is humble and prideless, one cannot be harmless and non-violent. That's the next two qualities. And then in this way, Prabhupada is actually listing down whatever is there in the Bhagavad Gita, till here. And he is just bringing it to context that non-violence is just one of the elements of knowledge. It is not all in all. There is so many other aspects of knowledge is there. And over and above the knowledge, we have the aspects of devotional services there, right? So that is why it is mentioned, Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam. So this is very important of the list of knowledge, is to get the Adhyatma jnanam, that is like spiritual knowledge, and then tattva jnanartha darshanam. So one has to also understand the Supreme Lord and abide by his orders. So sometimes there may be an overruling. Here ahimsa is considered to be one of the elements of knowledge, but then Krishna himself is saying that no, you fight. So there is there is an exception that is there. So in that way, the key aspect on the list of knowledge is the devotional service to the Supreme Lord. That is the key aspect in the list of knowledge. All other aspects of the knowledge sometimes may be overruled. They may not be exactly, we may not follow them at every point in time. The best example is the non-violence that we had discussed now. So this non-violence cannot be followed all the time, right? So we see great kings who were protectors of dharma. So when miscreants came, they had to become violent. They cannot keep the non-violence principle like that. That's not an ultimate principle on its own. Text 38. Yarhala yeshva api satam na harer kathasyu pasandino dvija jana vrishala nrideva swaha svada vasaditi sma girona yatra shasta bhavishyati kalir bhagavan yugante. Thereafter, at the end of Kali Yuga, when there exist no topics on the subject of God, even at the residence of so-called saints and respectable gentlemen of the three higher castes, and when the power of government is transferred to the hands of ministers elected from the low-born Shudra class or those less than them, and when nothing is known of the technique of sacrifice, even by word, at that time the Lord will appear as the supreme chastiser. So this is the Kalki avatars. Description is given here. So what is the thing? That is, when the Lord will, Kalki avatar comes only to destroy and finish off everything that is there, right? So, and then put an end to the Kali Yuga and start the next Satya Yuga. So that is the this one. That's when Kalki comes. And what are the conditions for winding up the whole Yuga of Kali Yuga? What is the condition on which the Kali Yuga will be completely finished? What is that? So when there exists no topics on the subject of God, nobody is discussing about God, right? Even in the residence of so-called saintly people, and respectable gentlemen of the three higher castes, that is the Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas. So nobody is discussing about God at all, right? And then when the power of the government is transferred to the hand of ministers who are elected from low-born Shudra class or lesser than them, that means people who don't have any godly culture, people who don't have any religious culture, when the government is completely shifted to their hand, we can see that almost it is already happening, right? So people, you take a count of people, like where how many of them are even following vegetarianism, or how many of them are doing any kind of spiritual sadhana and things like that, right? None of them actually. No. When we see Ambrish Maharaj, a great ruler, so it is mentioned, the description about him goes like this: Savai mana Krishna padara vindayor vacham shivaikunda gunanu varnane karau harer mandira marjanadishu shrutim chakara achyuta satkatodaye mukunda lingalaya darshana drsho no tadbritya gatra sparashanga sangame. So like this, a whole series of this one is there. If we see the great kings, they set a very, very nice example of devotional service, right? So they were always Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. So all the time they were thinking about the Lord. And because the king or any leader means he is just a representative of the Supreme Lord, and he's just have to do manage the government based on the rules and regulations of the Supreme Lord. So they were always Krishna conscious. They were always fully what is that? Always immersed in the thoughts of the Lord. So now the end of Kali Yuga means when there is no subject of God that is discussed anywhere, then it is finished. So in one sense, like we are gathering and discussing Krishna Katha, so it is helping the planet to go on, right? So it is almost like if the world doesn't have this Krishna Katha being spoken, so then there is no purpose for this world. It is like a school or a college or an education institute without any classes, without any teacher, without any subject books and things like that. So then what's the point of that school? No, it's no more a school. So in the same way, this world has an existence only for the transformation of the living entities, only so that we can transform ourselves and go back to the spiritual world. And if there is no chance of getting any spiritual education, then what's the point of maintaining the whole worldly administration? So the Lord will come, wind it up. That's all. Enough is enough. So there is no more continuation of such thing. So then he will establish a Satya Yuga. He will destroy all the miscreants, and then few nice people who will be there, he will just with them as the seed. He will start the next Satya Yuga. And Satya Yuga, all the religious principles will be nicely followed. Then after that, Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. So this whole cycle of all the time, the principles are set, and over a period of time, gradually it will deteriorate. And then again, the Lord will come and set it up, and then again it will deteriorate. So that's the nature of this material world. It always goes like this. So this is this one. If we want things to move on in this world, then the discussion on the subject of the Supreme Lord must be there. That's the very, very basic this one. And then here it's mentioned, when nothing is known of the techniques of sacrifice, even by word, at that time the Lord will appear as supreme chastiser. He will just come and finish them off completely. Purport: the symptoms of the worst condition of the material world at the last stage of this age called Kali Yuga are stated herein. The sum and substance of each conditions is godlessness. All these conditions, various conditions that are put. So there is discussions of the Supreme Lord is not happening, and the government is shifted to very low class people, and then there is no word of even sacrifice that is anywhere that is that is regarded, and things like that. The sum and substance of all these conditions is godlessness, right? Even so-called saints and higher castes of social orders, generally known as Dvija Janas or the twice born, will become atheists. So, like, who are all called twice born? Twice born means Ja means like Janma, like to take birth, and Dvi means two. Dvija means like one who takes birth twice, right? So, who takes birth twice? So, like a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, so they are called as Dvija. Why? Because they go through a spiritual initiation. Generally that is the procedure in the past. So first birth is by the mother and father, and second birth is by the spiritual master and the Vedic scriptures. The Vedic scriptures are considered to be the mother, and the spiritual master is considered to be the father. So when there is a Vedic initiation that happens, Diksha that happens, so that is, that time he is called as Dvija, or twice born, right? So, generally, this is called, okay, even the so-called saints and the higher social orders, generally known as Dvijajanas or twice born, will um, will become atheists. No, everyone will become atheist. As such, all of them will practically forget even the holy name of the Lord and what to speak of his activities. The higher castes of society, namely the intelligent class of men, guiding the destinies of the social orders, the administrative class of men guiding the law and order of the society, and the productive class of men guiding the economic development of the society, must all be properly well versed in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, knowing factually his name, quality, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia, and personalities. Right. So now here we see that the higher caste of, the three higher castes is mentioned. Intelligent class, who are guiding the destiny of the social order. That means the Brahmanas, who are guiding the whole social order and like regulating them. And the administrative class of men, that is the Kshatriyas, they guide the law and order in the society. And then the productive class of men, the Vaishyas, they guide the economic development of the society, right? So all of them, they cannot just simply do economic development. Means now what's happening is, anything that I can sell, some plastic products, that I can sell, it's okay. Some medicine that I can sell, it's okay. Anything that I can sell, must be an economic development. So, but then, now even it is going on in such a way that when these lockdowns and all were released, the first, this one was, the liquor industry was given chance for operation. Why? Because many people drink liquor. In that way, the state will get nice economic funds, and now there is a fund crunch. There is a revenue crunch. So first, open up the liquor shops. You will get a lot of revenue, right? So that's the worst part. Economic development means not hook or crook getting money. Everybody must be well versed in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Administration means not any law and order, anything I want, I can just keep. No, I have to consult the Supreme Lord. Everything that is there, it belongs to him. And if we want to have some proper governance, we have to consult the Supreme Lord, what he says in Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, if we don't consult, then our own rules and regulations will be crazy. So that's what is happening in Kali Yuga, that everyone is feeling that this method is good, that method is good. We can sell anything and everything, right? So that is how this, from China, this one has come, this virus has come. And people are trying to eat every possible thing, right? So they have not just become cannibals. Like, that's the only thing that is remaining yet. In the same way, if they go like, they will very soon, they will become cannibals, the man eaters, right? So we cannot just do anything and everything. They should all be well versed in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, knowing factually. What all well versed about the knowledge of Supreme Lord means what? We have to know the name of the Lord. We should know the qualities of the Lord. We should know the pastimes of the Lord. We should know the entourage. That means like whoever is there connected with the Lord, and paraphernalia and personalities, various different personalities that are connected to the Lord. All these things must be properly known. So that is when we will be able to orient our governance. We will be able to orient ourselves towards the Supreme Lord, right? So if we don't know all these things, then we will not be able to orient towards Supreme Lord. Then what we will do is, we will do a self-centered society. Every single person will be a self-centered person. So that's what is happening in the Kali Yuga, right? The saints and the higher castes or orders of the society are judged by their proportion of knowledge in the science of God, or Tattva Jnana, and not by any kind of birthright or bodily designations. So it is very good, this one. So many times when we talk about this social orders, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, people ask that, why is Hinduism promoting this caste system, right? So it is not a caste system based on birth, what it is degenerated into in the current day. It is caste system based on one's knowledge, Tattva Jnana. Jnana means what? The thing immediately that is paired with jnana is sense control. Until unless there is no sense control, there is no jnana, there is no knowledge. So we can actually say, who's a Brahmana who has got maximum sense control? who has got maximum knowledge. No, such a person is a Brahmana. And who's a Shudra? Who has got the least sense control and who has got the least knowledge. No, that a person is no Shudra. So if a person is able to control his senses well, and if he is able to do well in his jnana, like then he is regarded as a high class person. No, he may be born in the low class family, but then he's immediately termed as a high class person because of his ability to control the senses, and because of his because he is shining with knowledge. No, because of these two things, no, he'll be considered a high class person. So this birthright is something that has been promoted in the modern day. No, that's a degenerated form of uh, the social orders, caste system that is there. The original caste system did not have these things, right? So such designations, without any knowledge of science of God and practical knowledge of devotional service, are considered to be all decorations of dead bodies. So this is also, we have discussed one sloka, that Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya, no, without Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya, Jati Shastra Japas Tapas, Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam, right? So, like Bhagavad, no, without Bhagavad Bhakti, no, Jati, Shastra, Japa, Tapa, all these things. No, you may be belonging to a high class, no, Brahmana class, and this and that and all. But if we don't have Bhagavad Bhakti, what it is mentioned, no, like Jati, Shastra, Japas, Tapas, Apranasya Dehasya. So that means a body without prana, that is dead body, right? Apranasya Dehasya, Mandanam Lokaranjanam. So that is decorations on the dead body. All this good, like good family, born in a good family, good knowledge of material science, and like no, maybe they are doing some austerities which are not mentioned in the scriptures. No, all these things they are doing. This is just simply decorations on the dead body. And Mandanam Lokaranjanam, that means like the people of similar class of irreligious people, they will glorify that. You know, so these days, if we see like what is very very glorious for people, if their children go to foreign countries and then work for some no, we technically call them mlechas, means like meat eaters or cow eaters. So if their children go to foreign countries and work for some yavanas and mlechas, oh then oh, our children are like no, very well placed. No, they are very nice. Oh, this is the most degraded situation, no, what we can think of in the, according to the Vedic culture. And Vedic culture is like uh, what people are now glorifying and taking upon as a very very high position. Actually, according to the Vedic culture, it is decorations on the dead body. Hmm? So, and people of similar nature will actually glorify them. Hmm? And okay, we'll continue. And when there is too much inflation of these decorated dead bodies in society, there develop so many anomalies in the progressive peaceful life of human being. Because of the lack of training or culture in upper section of the social order, they are no more to be designated as dvijajanas or twice born, right? So because there is no training, so in many of the castes, like no, they just put the upanayana and then they put the this one janayu and things like that. But then if you ask them like no, what is the Vedic knowledge, who is the supreme lord, nothing they will know. So they're actually not dvijajanas, right? So they are not twice born. Hmm? The significance of twice born has been explained in many places in these great literatures. And again, one is reminded here with that birth executed by the sex life of father and mother is called animal birth. No, Janmana Jayate Shudra. That is what is mentioned. Janmana Jayate Shudra. Just by birth of which is a product of two people's sex relation. So that is called as an animal birth, or no, it is equated to Shudra. Janmana Jayate Shudra, Samskarat Bhave Dvija. No, when like samskaras are applied, when there is no Jata Samskar, then Garbhadana Samskar, and then that what is that? That 8th month, 7th month, they do some samskar also, right? So that samskar, then after that jata samskar, that jataka to be taken, and then like namkaran samskar is there, then like upanayam samskar is there. There are like right from conception of the child, or even before conception of the child, the samskara starts until antyam samskar. There are many different samskaras are there. So when like Janmana Jayate Shudra, Samskarat Bhaved Dvija. No, a higher class person means a twice born person means in his family there should be samskaras that is going on, right? So all these procedures have to be followed. And samskarat bhaved dvija and Veda Patat Bhaved Vipra. So by studying Vedas, a person become Vipra, no? And then no, Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. So like one who understands the Supreme Lord or the transcendence, he becomes a Brahmana, right? So in this way, like there is description is there. So here we see that the basic birth that all of us take is an animal birth. No, then but such animal birth and progress of life on the animal principle of eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating without any scientific culture of spiritual life is called the Shudra life, no, Janmana Jayate Shudra, that is. Or to be more explicit, the uncultured life of the lower class men. It is stated herein that the governmental power of society in the Kali Yuga will be passed over to the uncultured, godless laborer class of men, and thus the Nrudevas. Nrudeva means like the kings. No, Nara means like the human beings, and Deva means like the kings. Naradeva means the masters of the human beings or the ministers of the government, right? Will be the Vrishalas. Vrishalas are the uncultured lower class men of society. No one can expect any peace and prosperity in human society full of uncultured lower class of men. The symptoms of such uncultured social animals are already in vogue, and it is duty of the leaders of men to take note of it and try to reform the social order by introducing the principles of twice born men trained in the science of God consciousness. This can be done by expanding the culture of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. In the degraded condition of human society, the Lord incarnates as Kalki Avatar and kills all demoniac without mercy. Right? So this is what ISKCON is trying to do. All of us are trying to do. So we are just like how we can actually protect this dharma. If we can actually discuss the topics of this dharma, so then we know what needs to be done, what should not be done, and we can actually act as responsible people. And then we are trying to reach this Krishna consciousness to as many people as possible, trying to introduce this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to as many people as possible. Otherwise, people in general, they are just living an animal life. They have just born, and what is the whole purpose of the life? We should just get a good job, get a good earning, and just feed our bellies and have sense gratification. And that's just exactly what animals do. Ahara nitra bhayamaitunam cha samanya metat pashubir narana. Dharmo hitesha adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubir saman. So this is like animal life, and we are trying to give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to people in general, so that they can be raised to the platform of human beings, if not to the platform of a Brahmana. At least if they can become a human being, or at least if they can come to some higher standard of life, right? So that's what we are trying to do. If this is not happening, and if this propagation of Krishna consciousness is not happening, then very rapidly the degradation will happen, and very soon the end of world is approaching, right? So this is the only thing. If God consciousness is not there in the society, so then there is no point in this world continuing. The Lord will come and just destroy everything. That's all. So actually, by we ourselves meeting every day and discussing this Krishna Katha here, so that's a very, very important activity that we are doing for the upkeep of the whole world, right? So it is not just our we are learning something. We are doing a great service to the world just by listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, and then trying to reach this message to other people. We are doing even more greater service to the actually whole world and the people in general, right? So we should be like very, very eager to spread this message of Krishna consciousness to other people. Okay, text 39. Sarge tapoham rishayo navaye prajesha sthane tadarmamaka manva amara vanishah ante tvadarmahara manyu vasha shuradhya maya vibhutaya imah purushakti bhajah. At the beginning of the creation, there are penance, myself, that is Brahma, and the Prajapatis, the great sages who generate. And then during the maintenance, the creation, Maintenance of the creation, there are Lord Vishnu, the demigods with the controlling powers, and the kings of different planets. But at the end, at the end, there is irreligion, and then Lord Shiva and the atheists, full of anger, etc. All of them are different representative manifestations of the energy of the supreme power, the Lord. Right. So, in the beginning of the creation, the main thing, the main job in the whole universe is to populate the whole universe. So, and the living entities who have who have got unfinished desires in the previous kalpa, so they all have to be given bodies. So then Brahma is there, the Vedic knowledge, the penance is there, and then the Prajapatis means like the progenitors or the fathers of the mankind. So there are many great Prajapatis are there, like Manu is there. Then the four Kumaras, not four Kumaras, what is that? Daksha Prajapati is there, and many Prajapatis are there. So they create progeny in the universe. They fill up the population in the universe. So, and during the maintenance, there is Lord Vishnu is in charge of maintenance, and then the various devatas are there, and then various kings are ruling the planets and things like that, and the things are going on. And then during the end of the almost close to the destruction time, at the end, so there is irreligion is very prominent, and atheists are very prominent. And Lord Shiva, he is the deity of destruction, and he is also very prominent at that point in time. Right? So all of them are different representative manifestations of the energy of the supreme power, the Lord. Let's see the purport. The material world is created by the energy of the Lord, which is manifested in the beginning of the creation by the penance of Brahmaji, the first living being in the creation. And then there are 9 Prajapatis, known as great sages. In the stage when the creation is maintained, there are devotional service to Lord Vishnu or factual religion, the different demigods and the kings of different planets who maintain the world. At last, when the creation is preparing to wind up, there is the first principle of religion. Then Lord Shiva, along with the atheist, full of anger. So, but all of them are but different manifestations of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahadeva, so that is Shiva, are different incarnations of the different modes of material nature. Vishnu is the Lord of the mode of goodness, Brahma is the Lord of mode of passion, and Shiva is the Lord of mode of ignorance. Ultimately, the material creation is but a temporary manifestation meant to give the chance of liberation to the conditioned souls. A very important statement. Ultimately, the material creation is but a temporary manifestation. If it is temporary manifestation, why at all it is done? It is a temporary manifestation meant to give a chance of liberation to the conditioned souls. Just like the phase of going to the school is a temporary phase in our life, just to give us knowledge, just to get knowledge. That is not, being in the school or college is not eternity. That's not what we want to do throughout the life. So in the same way, being in this material world, this is not what we want to do throughout our life, throughout our existence. So we are here to transform ourselves, to learn about the devotional service, and prepare to go back to the spiritual world. That's the main purpose. It's just a temporary place, and our job description is to advance towards liberation. That's very clear. And if we just get attached to this temporary place, then that's gone. It's like somebody is there in the material for long. So that's like a person who's not graduating from the college. He's just sitting for the reappearance. He's just keep on sitting over there, right? So nobody will even value that person, right? That's the condition of our existence. So we are here. We are supposed to learn the aspect of how to get back to the spiritual world, right? So this is a temporary place, and here the chance is given for liberation for the conditioned souls. So except for preparation of liberation, everything else is a time pass in this world. Everything else is a time pass. Simply we are doing so many different things. It is just a time pass or just a support activity just to keep our body running. The main job of every single person in the world is to prepare for liberation, right? So it's mentioned that, give a chance of liberation to the conditioned souls who are entrapped in the material world, and one who develops the mode of goodness under the protection of Vishnu has a greater chance of being liberated by following the Vaishnava principles and thus being promoted to the kingdom of God, no more to return to this miserable material world, right? So this is the perfect way of liberation. So all of us are trying to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is a perfect formula for getting liberated, right? So this Shravanam is very, very powerful process, and we are trying to like prepare ourselves for liberation in this way, right? So text 40, Vishnor nu virya gananam katamo ratiha yaprartivani api kavir vimame rajamshi chaksham chashkamba yasva rahasa shalatha triprushtam yasma trisamya sadanad urukam payanam. Who can describe completely the prowess of Vishnu? Even the scientists who may have counted the particles of atom of the universe cannot do so, because it is he only who, in the form of Trivikrama, moved his leg effortlessly beyond the topmost planet Satyaloka up to the neutral state, of three modes of material nature, and all were moved. Right. So this is who can actually glorify the Lord fully. Here just a description, brief description of various incarnations is given till now, what we have studied. And now here Shukadeva Goswami is mentioning that who can actually completely describe the prowess of Lord Vishnu. Even if a person managed to count all the atoms in the universe, still he cannot estimate the glories of the Supreme Lord, right? So, okay, purport. The highest scientific advancement of the material scientist is atomic energy. But the material scientist is not able to have an estimation of the particles of atom contained in the whole universe. That's very, very difficult task. Okay? But even if one is able to count such atomic particles, or is able to roll up the sky like one's bedding, even then one is unable to estimate the extent of prowess and energy of the Supreme Lord. He is known as Trivikrama because once in his incarnation as Vamana, he expanded his leg beyond the highest planetary system, Satyaloka, and reached the neutral state of three modes of nature called the covering of the material universe. So there are 7 layers of material coverings over the material sky, and the Lord could penetrate even those coverings with his toe, made a hole through which the water of causal ocean filters into the material sky. And the current is known as the sacred Ganges, which purifies the planets of the 3 worlds. In other words, no one is equal to the transcendently powerful Vishnu. He is omniscient, and no one is equal to or greater than him. Right. So this is the here nicely it is put how Ganges has come into this world. So Ganga Devi, when Vamana Dev, when he measures the whole world, he actually with his one toe of his feet, he actually cracks open the covering of the universe. And then the causal ocean or the Karana ocean. We have studied about Karanadakshayi Vishnu. So the Karanadakshayi Vishnu lies down on the Karana ocean, and when he inhales or when he exhales, innumerable universes are created, and they are resting on the Karana ocean. And when like Vamana Dev, he actually kicks open or breaks open the shell of the universe. There was a crack that happens, and then the water from the causal ocean actually comes inside, and that is what is called as the Ganges. And Ganges is not, this water is not literally part of this world. It is beyond this world. It has so much of capacity to purify. Why? Because when Vamana Dev cracked open, the water that gushed inside, it washed the feet of the Supreme Lord, right? So it washed the feet of the Supreme Lord, and it came inside this whole universe. And that is why the whole Ganges is a river of Charanamrit. When we actually perform Abhishek to the Lord, so what remains, we call it as Charanamrit, and we actually take the Charanamrit with a lot of honor. And here we see Mother Ganges is full of Charanamrit. The whole thing is water that has washed the lotus feet of the Lord, right? So that's the glory of the Ganges. Okay, next sloka. Nantam vidamyaham amimunayo grajaste maya balasya purushasya kuto varaye Gayan Gunan Dasha Satan Nana Adi Devah Sesho Seshodunapi Samavashyati Nashyaparam. Neither I nor all the sages born before you know fully the omnipotent personality of Godhead. So, what can others who are born after us know about Him? Right. So, this is a very nice point. Like even Brahmaji and Narada, so they are the beginning of creation. So they are one of the roots of our whole creation, and they are discussing that even we and anybody who has come before us, they cannot understand the Supreme Lord fully, and what will people understand who are coming after us, right? So in this connection we had discussed one example of the reservoir of water and a thirsty person, right? So a thirsty person, if he drinks a little bit of water, his thirst will get quenched, and the reservoir of water is not possible to be emptied completely into our stomach. No, that's not possible. No, in the same way, no, the Lord is unlimited. No, we may be able to understand a portion of the Lord, but that will fully satisfy us. That will fully satisfy us. It is not possible by our limited capacity to understand the unlimited. That is logically impossible. No, the Lord means He is unlimited. If I manage to understand Him fully, then He is no more the Lord. No, He is within my perceptive capacity. No, then He's how can He be unlimited? So He is unlimited, and because of which nobody can understand Him fully. No, that's the logic here. Okay, even the first incarnation of the Lord, namely Sesha, has not been able to reach the limit of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of the Lord with 10,100 faces. Right? So it's like the Sesha or the Ananta Sesha is one of the incarnations of the Lord or expansion of Lord Baladev, and he is trying to glorify the aspects of the Lord with his 10,100 faces, and still he is not able to finish the glories of the Lord. So then what we can do, like we can only touch upon a little bit according to our capacity. The omnipotent personality of Godhead has three primary potencies, namely internal, external, and marginal potencies, with unlimited expansions of these three energies. As such, the expansions of his potencies can never be calculated by anyone, because even the personality of God himself, as the incarnation of Shesha, cannot estimate the potencies, although he has been described them continuously with his 1,000 faces. Okay, so we will stop here, and yeah, so we are we have launched a new online Gita course, and then people are actually